Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are... Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover on the broadcast. In the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with James Kuhl. He's running for re-election to the Steuben County Legislature. He'll be joining us right around 7:20, so don't miss that. We also have, oh boy, we have a lot of updates. Let's get right to it, as a matter of fact. We're going to be talking later on about the town hall with Bernie Sanders and AOC on CNN. AOC not ruling out primarying Chuck Schumer. We also have Zohran Mamdani, mayoral frontrunner in New York City, who was on Fox News yesterday. Now, tonight is the debate between Mamdani, Cuomo, and Sliwa. Now, what's interesting, if you think in your own mind of all that you've heard about the mayoral race in New York, Cuomo has become almost an afterthought. His new campaign tactics that we heard so much about, I don't believe have been that successful. All of the focus has been, for positive or negative, on Zohran Mamdani. So we'll talk about that. And, of course, updates on the peace plan. But let's get to some updates from yesterday's broadcast in the last couple of days, shall we? The AP is reporting that dozens of reporters have turned in their access badges and exited the Pentagon yesterday rather than agree to the government-imposed restrictions on their work, pushing journalists who cover the American military further from their seat of its power. The nation's leadership called the new rules common sense to help regulate a very disruptive press. News outlets were nearly unanimous in rejecting new rules imposed by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth that would leave journalists vulnerable to expulsion if they sought to report on information, classified or otherwise, that had not been approved by Hegseth for release. Many of the reporters waited to leave together at a 4 p.m. deadline set by the Defense Department, so a kind of protest, if you've seen the pictures and the videos. A lot of showmanship. You have people with boxes carrying out their boxes. They had some, it says here, as hours approached, boxes of documents lined a Pentagon corridor and reporters carried chairs, a copying machine, books, and old photos to the parking lot from suddenly abandoned workspaces. Shortly after 4, about 40 to 50 journalists left together after handing in their badges. Nancy Youssef, a reporter for The Atlantic, said, "It's sad, but I'm also really proud of the press corps that we stuck together." All right. Now, it's unclear what practical impact the new rules will have, though news organizations vowed they continued robust coverage of the military no matter the vantage point. So there you are. That's an update from a story that we had yesterday. Trump has instructed the Pentagon to ensure that troops are paid despite the government shutdown. And we have a few things on the government shutdown this morning, not a lot. But he signed a directive ordering the Department of War to keep paying U.S. troops despite the ongoing government shutdown, bypassing Congress after lawmakers failed to reach a funding deal now for weeks. The White House said the move is necessary to protect, quote, military readiness as the budget standoff stretched into its third week. The order, issued as National Security Presidential Memorandum 8, directs the department to use available fiscal year 2026 funds to cover military pay and allowances. The memo states the current appropriations lapse presents a serious and unacceptable threat to military readiness and the ability of our armed forces to protect and defend our nation. Trump then cited his Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief in issuing the order, which covers active duty troops and reservists on service orders. The directive instructs officials to use only funds that are legally tied to military pay in coordination with the Office of Management and Budget. I wonder if there'll be lawsuits on this, too. Well, there seems to be a lawsuit, and we've got a couple of examples of that on every decision that Trump makes. So will we see that group, the Democrats who have constantly filed lawsuit after lawsuit, will they want to be seen questioning his authority to pay our troops? I think it's a fair question. More than 1 million service members were expected to miss paychecks starting this week if Congress didn't act. Trump's move marks a break from past administrations, which often waited for bipartisan deals instead of intervening directly. Representative Nick LaLota, from right here in New York, said Trump's mid-month action was welcome news to the military community. But now that same community is anxious about what happens at the end of the month, where mortgages and rents and car payments all become due. Democrats were wrong to try to use troop pay as leverage to accomplish their political goals, and it would be wrong. It would be just as wrong for a Republican to hope that the lack of pay would be a catalyst to get Democrats to acquiesce. Trump is protecting the troops when Congress won't. The Pentagon has not said which specific amounts will be used. Reports from Roll Call and Reuters indicate the administration has identified roughly $8 billion in unobligated defense funds as potential options. So that was a breaking story from yesterday. Also, we learned, and this is coming from anonymous sources, and it's being reported by the New York Times, so take it with a very big grain of salt, but that the Trump administration is authorizing covert CIA action in Venezuela. Not taking off the table, according to The Sun, not taking off the table an assassination on Maduro. The development comes as the U.S. military is drawing up options for President Trump to consider, including possible strikes inside the country. The Trump administration has secretly authorized the CIA to conduct covert action in Venezuela, stepping up a campaign against Nicolas Maduro, the country's authoritarian leader. The authorization is the latest step in the Trump administration's intensifying pressure campaign against Venezuela. For weeks, the U.S. military has been targeting boats off the Venezuelan coast, it says are transporting drugs, killing 27 people. American officials have been clear privately that the end goal is to drive Mr. Maduro from power. Trump acknowledged on Wednesday that he had authorized the covert action and said the U.S. was considering strikes on Venezuelan territories. Man, if you're Maduro, how concerned and how worried are you right now? You're not trusting anyone. We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control, the president said. Any strikes on Venezuelan territory would be a significant escalation. After several of the boat strikes, the administration made the point that the operation had taken place in international waters. The new authority would allow the CIA to carry out lethal operations in Venezuela and conduct a range of operations in the Caribbean. The agency would be able to take covert action against Mr. Maduro or his government, either unilaterally or in conjunction with a larger military operation. It is not known whether the CIA is planning any specific operations in Venezuela. But the development comes as the U.S. military is planning its own possible escalation, drawing up options for President Trump to consider. The scale of the military buildup in the region is substantial. There are currently 10,000 U.S. troops there, most of them at bases in Puerto Rico, but also contingent Marines on amphibious assault ships. In all, the Navy has 8 surface warships and a submarine in the Caribbean. The new authorities, known in intelligence jargon as a presidential finding, were described by multiple U.S. officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the highly classified documents. So there you are. How's that for breaking news? Also, we're going to move quick this morning. I'm warning you. The Trump administration has withheld $40 million from California. Why? Because of their refusal to enforce English language requirements for truckers. That's according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. Now, we recently had the story where New York had issued a real ID for a commercial truck driver whose name was no name given. But this move targeting California, saying the move came weeks after an investigation found that an illegal immigrant truck driver, Harinder Singh, killed 3 people after making an illegal U-turn on a Florida road in August. California has issued the driver a commercial license, but these English rules predate the crash. Duffy cited failures by California to enforce English proficiency rules following one of Trump's executive orders. Duffy saying, California is the only state in the nation that refuses to ensure big rig drivers can read our road signs and communicate with law enforcement. This is a fundamental safety issue that impacts you and your family on American roads. The Golden State thinks it's okay to ignore the U.S. Department of Transportation English language requirement for truckers. You can play all the games you want, but not at the expense of American lives, Duffy wrote. So, that is another major update. Let's keep going. As I mentioned, kind of the activist judges here. Oh, and we're going to give you an update, 2 updates from yesterday's story, from yesterday's broadcast. And then we are going to get into, I think, some very troubling news about polling. It ties in with Israel and Hamas and this consistent anger and hatred towards Israel and kind of the anti-Semitism that has run amok, unfortunately, in the Democrat Party. We are going to talk about that in just a little bit. But a judge has halted Trump's planned layoffs of federal workers during government shutdown. So this is, again, why I question whether or not they will file a lawsuit against the military pay. A federal judge in San Francisco has ordered the Trump administration to immediately halt its efforts to lay off roughly 4,100 federal workers during the government shutdown, saying the move is unlawful. Now, this is coming from CNN, so we will. It's, let's see, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. In the 5th paragraph, we find out who appointed District Judge Susan Ilston. Ilston said, as of right now, the temporary restraining order is in effect. The order, the judge said, bars the administration for now, it's always for now, from moving ahead with any layoffs for members of several unions that sued over the plans or issuing any new layoff notices for those union members. It will remain in effect while the union's legal challenge plays out. Okay. So before we go to break, the judge from San Francisco, we're going to play a game. The judge from San Francisco, Susan Ilston. Susan Ilston was appointed by whom? I'll wait to hear from you. We've got a couple options. We'll make a multiple choice. Was it Donald Trump? Was it Joe Biden? Was it Barack Obama? Let's keep going. Was it George W. Bush? Was it Bill Clinton? There, or all of the above. No, that wouldn't work. So that's my question for you today. And you only have 2 minutes to respond because we're taking a break, and I'm gonna break the news to you. District Judge Susan Ilston, who halted Trump's planned layoff of federal workers during the government shutdown, nominated by who? Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Lease a brand new 2025 Subaru Impreza Base all-wheel drive featuring alloy wheels and remote start for only $209 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
I can finish the podcast after she finishes her laps.
My fantasy team isn't as important as his cannonball.
Drowning is the #1 cause of death in children ages 1 to 4. 88% of children who drown are under some form of adult supervision. A friendly reminder from the YMCA that your eyes can save lives. Visit phonesdowneyesup.org to take the water safety pledge today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We got a couple of predictions of which president appointed the judge that halted Trump's planned layoffs. It was kind of a little tricky question, if I'm being honest. So I don't blame anybody for not getting it right. Mark wrote in Obama. One viewer wrote in Trump, which is a good guess, because every once in a while there is one of those outliers where you go, whoa, what happened? And then this one, Karen writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Karen. Karen guesses the judge was appointed by Sleepy Joe. I would have guessed Sleepy Joe as well, but I went back far enough in the history book. It was President Bill Clinton. That might be a newer one. I can't think of the last time we announced a Bill Clinton appointee that went against Trump. But numbers-wise, it's staggering when it comes to Democrat presidents appointing one of these judges as compared to Trump. Every once in a while there's a Trump. We even heard from a Reagan, which was kind of surprising not that long ago. It's kind of like trading cards. We should keep a checklist. But I appreciate the guesses. And it was a little unfair because it went all the way back to Bill Clinton. All right, an update from yesterday. Letitia James, her fugitive grandniece at the center of the federal indictment against the New York Attorney General, posted a boastful but also fib-filled, according to the New York Post, Facebook post after her extensive criminal record became national news. Nakia Thompson said, for all the inquiring minds, no, I'm not in trouble, haven't been in years. She claimed her extensive rap sheet dating back nearly 20 years, including 2 charges of assaulting cops, was, quote, old as we'll say heck, and fabricated. Okay. Very much an active mother to my children every day, work every day, and very much in college and about to graduate with my BA in sociology with a minor in criminal justice. She did omit the fact that she was arrested for felony larceny with her kids in tow as recently as 2019. That was omitted from the Facebook post. She then chided gossipers for always focusing on the negativity regarding her past, which includes 4 citations racked up in a single day in July, including speeding 80 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. 4 citations in a day. I'm doing my thing, she added. I walk with my head held high because I worked hard to get where I am, describing herself as a walking testimony. Patting herself on the back. Thompson has been living at one of James' Norfolk houses since 2020 and is a, quote, an absconder for willfully avoiding supervision by her probation officer in North Carolina. She was sentenced to probation for misdemeanor convictions for assault and battery and trespassing. Due to the level of the offenses, the district attorney has designated this case non-extraditable. She faces arrest if located in North Carolina and possible activation by the Corps of suspended sentences. The criminal case against James comes down to whether Thompson paid rent after moving into the property. In mortgage documents, James listed the house as a second home where she would be the primary resident. However, prosecutors say she had been collecting rent on the property. James denies the allegation. Thompson told the New York Times she did not pay rent while living in the house. Now, what's interesting, they're making a big deal about the new leaders of the resistance, and that is Zohran Mamdani teaming up with Letitia James because she's been campaigning with Mamdani. So that's just another quick update on how we doing on time. All right, another update. Oh, and we can talk. We didn't mention this yesterday, and it's only because I ran out of time. Hochul and others are using this young Republican group as a cudgel because they said horrific things in their group chat. But Hochul and others are looking at this as an opportunity to attack all Republicans while, kind of downplaying what violent rhetoric is coming from their own party, such as Jay Jones pondering the shooting of Republican lawmakers, these type of things, but calling for Trump and others to condemn the text chat that no one knew anything about. But we can talk about that, and I do have it in my stack. I don't want you to think I've ignored it. If you have, and I personally did not know the Young Republicans were even still an organization. That's not to knock them, but I know they were at one time very active throughout the country. They seem to be not as relevant at this point, but of course the media is making them very, very relevant because of that text chain. So if you want to talk about that, feel free to weigh in. All right, one quick update. I promise I'm not going to bring up The View a lot. I know we talked about The View quite a bit yesterday, but I want to give you a laugh this morning. After actress Cheryl Hines went on The View and defended her husband's record, her husband, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and this is why The View is so obnoxious, because they don't let their guests speak. They don't let her get her point out, to one point where she even said, "Can I finish?" Joy Behar said, "I think we should have more Republicans on the show. They're scared of us." Now, you can make a joke about that. I'm sure Greg Gutfeld has. They're not scared. Why would anybody in their right mind go on a show where you're going to have, 4 or 5 co-hosts screaming you down so you can't get a word in edgewise and not giving you time to correct the record as you push lies and narratives? So the idea of they're scared of us is laughable. But I had to mention that to you to give you a little laugh this morning. Do you think a J.D. Vance couldn't, in a fair debate, I think do just fine with the ladies at The View? But of course, it's not a fair debate. It's not a fair conversation even on The View, as you saw with the shouting down of Cheryl Hines, who was in no way, shape, or form what you would call a conservative. She became public enemy number 1 in the Hollywood circles because the day that RFK Jr. teamed up with Trump. It's as simple as that. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I just saw a comment here, and I've got a couple comments on this. Someone mentioning that the show did not record, because some people record the show, not meaning Frankly Speaking. It isn't a problem. The show's listed as different. I think they switched it back in a good way to Big Fox News or Morning News, something like that. And I think you record. I'm not 100% correct on how that system works, but I think it's by title of the program. So I would just check your listings to see what it is listed as. So I apologize. I was not aware that was going to happen, or I would have made that announcement earlier in the week. All right. We have to mention when we come back some very troubling updates on political violence, far-left political violence, and it ties in with the anti-Semitism, ties in with the rhetoric, but it also ties in with the Democrat Party in general. So that's going to be kind of a couple of sections there. Then we are going to talk about Israel and Hamas. A couple updates there. One big update coming out late last night. Boy, this is scary. Passengers at airports in Pennsylvania and British Columbia were stunned yesterday when loudspeakers suddenly blasted pro-Hamas messages and slurs against President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Videos posted by travelers showed the unauthorized recordings echoing through terminals at Harrisburg International Airport in Pennsylvania and Kelowna International Airport in Canada. Oops, I forgot to give those waves up there. Screens at Kelowna are also flashed messages praising Hamas and calling for free Palestine, according to officials and witnesses. Cyber vandalism there, pretty scary when you're talking about airports. I do want to also mention, and we're going to talk about it more in depth, but Mamdani in his interview with Fox News would not call for Hamas to give up their arms, to give up their weapons, and he also stood by his statement that if Benjamin Netanyahu came to New York under his watch, he would have him arrested. Those are two major takeaways, but there are some other takeaways as well. Let's take a short break. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. Yeah, if we have an opportunity, I am going to talk about Supreme Court Justice Jackson. We have so much to cover this morning. So let me take a break because I don't want to run too late. But this next segment I think is very important with some breaking polls and just some breaking stories as well. So we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Time to get clean!
Yes, but that liquid detergent leaves you covered in harsh chemical residue. Not Earth Breeze. Just one sheet gives you a powerful clean.
Switch now at earthbreeze.com.
Shopping Ollie's First means saving up to 70% off fancy store prices every day. To demonstrate, we gave shopper A $100 to go shop a fancy store. We sent shopper B to Ollie's. As they say, the proof is in the cart.
Nobody says that.
And yet, I just did. The brands you know and trust, all up to 70% off.
Ollie's! Good stuff, cheap!
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. I know I mentioned that viewer's comment. If you had not seen that, Liberal Justice Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson, compared efforts to draw congressional districts along racial lines to the way disabled people were granted easier access to buildings after the Americans with Disability Act became law. Jackson said, as she questioned a lawyer, quote, "The idea in Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is that we are responding to current-day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right?" As she was questioning the lawyer who represented Louisiana voters, who argued the court order creation of a second majority black district in the state violated the 14th Amendment by prioritizing racial composition in its boundaries. The justice said, this is a quote from the justice said of minority voters in the state, quote, "They're disabled." Jackson noted the majority opinion in a 2023 Supreme Court ruling, which found Alabama unlawfully diluted the voting power of black people in the state, quote, "used the word disabled to describe voters subject to procession that are not equally open, or a process that's not equally open." What Congress is saying is, if it is happening, what Section 2 gives us the tools to determine, you've got to fix it. So that's what the viewer was referencing. That was yesterday. All right, I have to mention this. Listen to this. A new poll has come out. It's a survey by Signal, but that's spelled with a C. They did a survey, And they found that 60% of young liberals, 60% of young liberals say it is, quote, acceptable to go beyond peaceful protest in response to immigration raids conducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. 42, that's 60%. 42% of liberals said it was acceptable to go beyond peaceful protest, even if that meant breaking the law. The numbers jumped to 60% of liberals under the age of 30. So no longer accepting peaceful protests as a means to have their voice heard. They're now talking about breaking the law and going beyond peaceful protests. Signal president and pollster Brent Buchanan said liberals are shockingly okay with breaking the law to go against government action they don't agree with, like ICE raids. One side of America's political spectrum, whether directly engaged in this behavior or not, now openly accept breaking laws if it means advancing their political agenda. Considering their justification of illegal immigration and insistence that it's not a criminal act if the act is desperate, this might not be such a surprise. The young liberals' opposition to enforcement is ironic because they're the biggest economic losers as legal and illegal migrants force down wages, cut workplace investment, and spike housing costs, and push up older Americans' stock market values. Overall, 25% of the 1,500 respondents told Signal that it is acceptable to go beyond peaceful protest. 11% strongly agreed, as did 18% of all liberals. And we're not going to get into all the numbers. But that ties in with a bigger problem that we've had with the far left violence. When we talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, when we talk about the 2 assassination attempts on the President of the United States. But it also ties in with the rhetoric that they've been pushing overall. That poll was in reference to ICE, but think of the anti-Semitism that has run amok on college campuses, in the media, on the streets of New York and elsewhere, not just on college campuses. So this should come as no surprise, but it's heartbreaking at the same time. According to the Washington Post, U.S. Jews increasingly say they are hiding their identity in a country where they believe they continue to face significant anti-Semitism and where slightly fewer than 1 in 5 feel very safe. Now, I've got to say, I don't even like how that's necessarily worded by the Washington Post, where they believe they continue to face significant anti-Semitism, putting the onus on them, putting that, well, they think it's that way. My goodness, we've seen what's happening on college campuses. We've seen the threats, harassment, and intimidation of not just Jewish students, which sadly has been supported by faculty and staff. Harvard's president willing to take a pay cut to stand with the anti-Semitic protesters, but it's also happened on the streets of cities throughout the country. The nation's 6 million Jewish adults also are skeptical of President Trump's campaign to fight anti-Semitism on college campuses. Washington Post, good job. Make sure you get that dig on Trump there. With nearly 2/3 suggesting he is conducting it for other reasons. I don't quite understand that. The poll was conducted in early September before Trump helped negotiate a ceasefire deal. Well, there you go. Thank you. I'm glad that paragraph is after the ad break. Good. Nearly half of U.S. Jews say there is a lot of anti-Semitism in the U.S., and a similar share say there is some. A third say they don't feel safe in the United States, and 2/3 report being or seeing anti-Semitic content online at least once a month. At the same time, a large majority, 73%, say that they have not been the target of anti-Semitic remarks online or in person in the past year. I do not blame a single Jewish person who is concerned about going to synagogue, who is concerned to enroll their child to a college or a university. But it's heartbreaking. But when you look at what's happening specifically on college campuses, which became so prevalent in the media because the media supported them, along with the faculty and the staff supporting them. But you saw those Jewish students who were not just forgotten by the supposed grown-ups on college campuses, they were actually targeting them. So according to this poll, and I'm not going to read any more because you see the bias dripping from the piece, but there is a real concern in the Jewish community. And remember, it was Van Jones who said the Democrat Party is now marbled with anti-Semitism. And according to this poll, It reveals a Jewish community that is weary and divided about its domestic political allies. Asked how unfriendly or friendly the GOP, the Democrat Party, and Trump are to Jews, the poll finds all three are seen as roughly equal. The assessment is a plunge for the Democrat Party since 2020, when 52% of U.S. Jews consider the party friendly, compared with just 36 who said this today. Now, again, when they talk about Trump and they talk about Republicans, this was done before the peace deal, so it's not even worth mentioning. But about 3 in 10 American Jews say the Democrat Party is unfriendly towards Jews. Now, I would, again, just quote a major voice in the Democrat Party, Van Jones, who said the Democrat Party is marbled with anti-Semitism. So enough on that poll, but it ties in because Israel's current phase of its war against the savage terrorists of Hamas is over. President Donald Trump brokered his historic deal to bring the hostages home and hopes a new era in the region will begin. But is it over? And what does it mean for us here in the United States? This is by Shahar Azani at Fox News. While decent human beings gathered to mourn the innocent souls slaughtered and the hundreds taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th, other groups assembled for a very different purpose. They did not gather to advocate for peace or to support President Trump's ceasefire agreement. Rather, they chanted for October 7th to happen again, screaming glory to our martyrs while waving jihadist flags adorned with machine guns. Wow. And I don't need to detail to you the horrific events of October 7, 2023. Too many in Israel chose to close their eyes to the reality, telling themselves lies. They're only speaking to their public for political reasons. And I'm getting into the weeds on this a little bit. Accordingly, for the past 2 years, we have witnessed a terrifying surge of anti-Semitism. Jewish students have been harassed and intimidated, synagogues vandalized, and Israel supporters' businesses boycotted. Online spaces fester with conspiracy theories that would have been familiar to propagandists in the 1930s. Now the public call to replicate what happened on October 7th on American soil represents a new and dangerous precipice. It is a direct and unambiguous threat, not only to the Jewish community, but to the very foundation of our society. History has taught us that what starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews, and what starts with the Jewish state often finds its way to the West. Such calls are not a matter of free speech. I'm going to sneeze. Give me a second. The right to protest and express political dissent is a cornerstone of our democracy, but is not a license to incite violence. Such speech represents a clear and present danger to social order. A society that tolerates such calls is one that is actively dismantling its own safeguards against barbarism. When calls to globalize the intifada, which again, Zohran Mamdani did not disavow when it was being said at his rallies, are met with shrugged shoulders or echoed by a political candidate for mayor. Okay, there we go. The poison seeps into the mainstream. The chants we heard on the anniversary of October 7th were not just an echo of a brutal past, but a threat to our collective futures. We are now at a moment of decision. Will we look reality in the eye? Will we dare face this evil and take action against those who spearhead it? Or will we choose to shy away from it, hoping it will go away, knowing it never will? The choices are to make, is ours to make. Our future depends on it. Believe them when they tell you who they are before it's too late. And I've got other examples of this, unfortunately, and I'm going to tie it in with the larger picture of the left-wing violence. And then we are going to get to Israel. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to get to the town hall with AOC and Bernie Sanders. We're also going to talk about the Fox News interview with Zohran Mamdani. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Cold Creek was once a thriving village, swallowed by silence and shadow. The town turned on a woman named Granny J. Hatchett. So that night the townsfolk went into her cabin. They tied her to the old tree, and before she was burned, she said,
"You all will vanish like smoke, and when you return, you'll wear your sins on your skin."
Now, each October, the cursed souls return to seek vengeance.
But that's just a story, right, John? John, did you hear that?
828 million people around the world go hungry every day, even though the world produces enough food to feed them. Early on, I knew I wanted to figure out better ways to get food to people who are hungry. What started out as volunteering became my life's work. What might surprise people is that this experience intertwines every day with my experience at Rotary. I've married my mission with my job, making an impact daily on this issue that I care about. And over the years, as a member of Rotary, I know I'm creating solutions. Whatever you care about, whatever's important to you, Rotary is a way to multiply the impact that you're going to have. Rotarians truly are changing the world through
the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Oh, wow, we got a lot of comments here. Sorry, I get distracted sometimes reading them. I will, if you don't mind, read those in the next segment because I didn't have a chance to read them all. I came in right before the break. So we'll get to your comments. Keep them coming in. We'll get to them in the next segment. I want to tie that in, that last piece I had. According to the New York Post editorial board, Students for Justice in Palestine just outed itself as actually being Students for Terror in Palestine. That is the only possible conclusion as the group cheers Hamas's massacre of collaborators, quote-unquote collaborators in Gaza, now that the terrorists are free to wage war on rivals with the IDF pulled back to the ceasefire line. Students for Justice in Palestine's online tribute to pro-Hamas propagandist Salih al-Jafari, killed in Palestinian infighting, rants, "Death to the occupation, death to Zionism, death to all collaborators, including the Dogmaush clan, which Hamas has alternatively accused of being allied with Israel and ISIS. SJP plainly will amplify whatever lies Hamas sells. For the start, it glorified the October 7, 2023 terror attack on Israeli citizens, then turned to demanding a ceasefire before the IDF even began its counterattack." Remember that? Yes, there was a demand for a ceasefire instantly. "The only justice it supports is the triumph of the terrorists and the slaughter of the Jews. This is the group that Zohran Mamdani brought to his undergraduate campus at Bodine College, an SJP chapter that proceeded to oppose the arrest and deportation of convicted terrorist bomber Rashmi Youssef Odai. He was finally deported in 2017. It also hosted radical Lebanese American professor Assad Abakali, who praised the Palestinian, quote, godfather of the Middle Eastern terrorism, and years later blamed the U.S. for the attacks on 9/11. Mamdani himself hasn't gone so far as to cheer Hamas's latest slaughter of other Palestinians. He's playing nice during his mayoral run. I don't know. I mean, he said he would not call for the disarming of Hamas. But on the other hand, he refuses to say, oh, there we go, Hamas should disarm. And we're going to talk more about his interview with Fox later. But pushed on the question by Martha McCullum of Fox News, he first tried to pivot to his affordability promise, the only thing he wants to talk about, before garbling, "I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety, and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. The record shows that Hamas is opposed to justice, except for the Sharia law it imposes, and to safety. It literally dug its hundreds of miles of tunnels and bunkers beneath schools, hospitals, and other key civilian structures to use innocents as human shields. But Mamdani won't even say the terrorists should step aside for an international force that can lead Gaza permanently out of war into peaceful prosperity. He's too careful to stand explicitly with his old SJP comrades in cheering Hamas's deadly drive to recover absolute power in Gaza, but he can barely hide the truth. That's exactly where his sympathies still stand, and that is a common trend in what you would call the up-and-coming or the rising stars in the Democrat Party. And let's talk a little bit about that. Representative, about the violence, about the rhetoric coming from the left. Representative Don Beyer claimed, and he's a Democrat from Virginia, he claimed that the Virginia Democratic candidate for Attorney General, Jay Jones, who fantasized about the shooting of a Virginia Republican lawmaker and their family, quote, is no worse than what President Donald Trump says almost every day. He was asked by a reporter with the Dogwood News if he had a comment about Jones. Beyer expressed that Jones' comment entertaining a hypothetical situation of shooting former Virginia Speaker of the House of Delegates, Todd Gilbert, was awful. Beyer continued to state that he hopes Jones prevails in the upcoming election. How about Mr. Jones? He said, you know, what Jay said was awful. Can't just leave it at that. Nope. It's no worse than what Donald Trump says almost every day and the things that J.D. Vance has said. You compare it to the other evil things. People make mistakes. I very much hope he prevails. Wow. So the rhetoric is not going away. Now, that could be one of the reasons that even CNN has had to admit, and it's specifically data analyst Harry Enton. He painted a pretty bleak picture of the Democrats' midterm chances, the 2026 election, as that election nears. Enton, who was citing the Kalishi prediction market, noted in April that Democrats had an 83% chance of winning the House of Representatives. As of today, that has dropped to 63%. And said yes. So, you know, if you go back 6 months, you go back to April, what are we looking at? Well, we are looking at the Democrats with a very clear shot of taking control of the U.S. House of Representatives. We saw them with an 83% chance. But those odds have gone plummeting down. Now we're talking about just a 63% chance, while the GOP chances up like a rocket, up like gold, up from 17% to now a 37% chance. So it will look like a pretty clear Democrat win in the House come next year has become much closer to a toss-up at this point, although still slightly leaning Democrat. He then said, what has changed? Well, why don't we just take a look at the national picture first? Take a look at voters and how they're feeling about things. And we could take a look at the generic congressional ballot. And I want to take a look and compare it to 2017, 2018, right? Because that's sort of the baseline. That was, of course, the first Trump term. That was where Democrats were sort of keeping pace. You go back to April and look at that generic congressional ballot. What do you see? You see +3 Democrats in 2025 in April. You see +3 Democrats back in April 2017. Now jump over to this side of the screen. What happens? Well, the Democrats are no longer keeping pace with the pace that they were setting back in 2017 and 2018. The bottom line is it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Democrats have stayed basically steady. They have fallen off the pace. Democrats are way out ahead back in 2017. And now we're basically looking at Democrats ahead. But again, they're so far in back of the pace they had set there. And so I think there are a lot of folks like myself, are saying, wait a minute, given what we might be seeing in redistricting, is this +3 going to be enough? Interesting. And how about this? Oh, I've got so much to cover. Two more things on this kind of the Democrat Party, I guess you could say. The rage. I see that Kamala Harris using very nasty language to describe RFK Jr. I'm not even going to mention it, but it's blanked up what RFK Jr. is doing to HHS. That's Kamala Harris. Nancy Pelosi shouting at a reporter, and only a Democrat could get away with this. As she was clutching the hand of an aide to help her walk, she snapped at a reporter asking about the Capitol riots and saying, why didn't you call in the National Guard? You said you made a mistake. She said to the reporter, shut up. Only a Democrat could get away with that. All right, we got to take a short break. A couple other things on this when we come back. We are going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about Mamadani. So much. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselstons in Amara Heights. At Hesselstons, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselstons now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselstons is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselstons.
This isn't Jervis Library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Football Show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark says, I saw a clip where people who helped Israel were on their knees and their backs towards the Hamas firing squad and were shot. Who in the right mind would support Hamas? You're right, who would support Hamas? But that's what, unfortunately, we're seeing on the streets. We're seeing it in various rhetoric, but it was alleged. I mean, it's not even people that necessarily had any ties whatsoever with Israel. That was their excuse for the mass executions. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. In honor of the profound words of Barack Obama, quote, elections have consequences, end quote. Happy Donald Day. There are only 1,191 days left in his term. Your friend, no name given. Perfect. His Christian name, no name given. Thank you very much. That one, good one. All right, comment from some other viewers here. I like to watch lots of different news just for the spin. I do too. I'll be full disclosure. I do too. Christine Amanpour had the Nobel Prize winner on last night. I hadn't heard her speak before. She is fantastic and really pushed back on every wacky question about Trump and his policy on his Venezuela. Yeah, she has been remarkable in this. I know people mocked it. Well, Trump didn't get his Nobel Peace Prize, but this lady said it's dedicated to him. Ooh, I thought it was a great gesture. I thought it was a wonderful gesture by her. All right, comment from a different viewer. This was never about Palestinians. It is about Iran and Democrats sending pallets of cash and removal of sanctions. Oh, in beginning this, it got cut off. Hamas mass executions are the Democrats' fault, their policy, according to that viewer. Comment from a different viewer. Abigail Spanberger, Virginia's Democrat nominee for governor, told her supporters to, quote, let your rage fuel you. That's been quoted here by Daily Signal. I saw it on the Hill, so yes, it is an actual quote. It is a clear example of Democrats encouraging violence. The definition of rage is uncontrollable, violent anger. You're right. And you know who's making a name for himself with it? J.B. Pritzker. Tell me this is the headline he's been dreaming of. Coming from the Washington Post. J.B. Pritzker finds his place at the ramparts of the Trump resistance. Pritzker saying, I would remind you that a happy warrior is still a warrior. You come from my people, you come through me. He's trying to play very tough. Now remember, J.B. Pritzker is an interesting case because a party that hates billionaires, will they ever nominate a billionaire heir? Got his money from his family. Will they ever support that? But he wants to be president. He wants to run for president. So he actually, you got to give him a little bit of credit. He got out early, even before Gavin Newsom, and started pushing the narrative that would lead to the resistance, meaning he started using very tough language, borderline violent, very tough rhetoric. What did I say? Language? Yeah, language. Very tough language, very tough rhetoric, bordering on and very often crossing the line about violent rhetoric, pushing violent rhetoric. It's time to fight everywhere and all at once, Pritzker declared in a speech. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. That's an exact quote from J.B. Pritzker. Though many believe moderation and modulation are the ways for Democrats to repair their tattered brand, Pritzker has claimed that anything less than waging full-throated battles against Trump is moral abdication. Now, here's the problem that I have with this. Well, he says there are people, some in my own party, who think that if you just give Donald Trump everything he wants, he'll make an exception and spare you of some of the harm. Here's the problem with that. He's pushing this rhetoric, and I do believe it's why Democrats are suffering in elections because of the violent rhetoric, the extreme woke policies that they've taken over and over again. You add all those together, and it's proved a disaster for them. But if Pritzker is thinking about the White House, he has to win the Democrat primary. And how do you win the Democrat primary right now? You show yourself to be the face of the resistance. It's why he has a headline that Pritzker finds his place at the ramparts of the Trump resistance. It's why Gavin Newsom has been given so much attention, because the media wants to prop him up as well, because he went after Trump by using what they're saying is Trump's kind of language in tweets. So he's pushing that in hopes that, again, at the end of the day, he doesn't have to look moderate. Now, after they win the primary, they'll pretend and they'll lie to you that there's some type of moderate. But they've got to win the far left base of their party. So that's why they're going to these extreme natures. I just had to bring that to you because I've been talking about J.B. Pritzker and his dream to be the face of the resistance. And there he is. He got his wish. We got to take our last break of this hour. Keep those comments coming in. Then we're going to wrap up hour number one. Running just a little bit late.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine riddles. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Good job, buddy. Hey, buddy. It's time. Gotta go. Listen, I could be there in 15 minutes. Yep, see you soon. All right, you know the drill. Your brother could always do it. That's what I thought.
I just wanted to stop.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I just saw this in a quick glance at some emails that I got. And I would love to know, and you don't have to answer today. Tomorrow's Friday, but we have a Climate Fact Friday with Bob. And CNN is reporting, I just find this interesting because I look at it a lot different, but planet heating methane is escaping from cracks in the Antarctic seabed as the region warms, with new seeps being discovered at an astonishing rate, scientists have found, raising fears that future global warming predictions may have been underestimated. Huge amounts of methane lie in reservoirs that have formed over millennia beneath the sea floor around the world. This invisible climate-polluting gas can escape into the water through fissures in the sea floor, often revealing itself with streams of bubbles weaving their way up to the ocean surface. So let me ask, how is that created by man with the global warming? So are we is that negating everything that we've done specifically in New York to push back our carbon emissions and these type of things? I always find that that's not how they're presenting it. That's the way my mind works, is if that's happening, there's nothing we can do to overcome that, right? What are we supposed to do about that? I don't know. I just find that really interesting, and they're pushing that as CNN. All right, last thing before this hour, we're going to talk about the peace deal, what we learned, and a lot of other things to catch up on in the next hour. But this is interesting. Axios is reporting that dozens of Democrats running for U.S. House seats across the country said that they either wouldn't vote for Hakeem Jeffries or are declining to commit in doing so. Now, Hakeem Jeffries has not done a great job in his leadership position if you are a Democrat, I would say. Same with Chuck Schumer right now. He's trying. That's why they're keeping the government shut down, to try to prove a point that they are the face of the resistance. Jeffries has enjoyed the unanimous support of his caucus since becoming Democrat leader. That may no longer be the case next Congress amid growing grassroots frustration toward his leadership, particularly on, you guessed it, the far left. Yes, the left, who are trying to drive out Chuck Schumer, now trying to drive out Hakeem Jeffries. Axios reached out to virtually every Democrat running for a House seat that could conceivably be won by a Democrat in 2026, with 113 responding in phone interviews or written answers. Of those, 20 said they wouldn't vote for Jeffries as Speaker or Minority Leader, with 5 more saying they were likely to vote against him. Another 57 candidates declined to commit to supporting Jeffries, saying it was premature to do so, citing ideological differences or outlining perceived flaws in strategy, messaging, or leadership they want to see addressed. Only 24 said that they would definitely vote for Jeffries, with another 7 saying they would likely do so. Not good news for Jeffries or Chuck Schumer lately. Hey, whoa, we are running late. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 moments away. Stay with us.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dense to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
And welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We've got some viewer comments, and we're going to talk about the peace deal. A couple things on that. Zohran Mamdani. Now, the mayoral debate is tonight, so keep that in mind. One article says, hey, nerds, gather around if you want to watch the debate. There's a little bit of that. We'll say wonkiness, political wonkiness. If you are going to watch, I'd love to hear your take on it tomorrow. I think it's, what time is it? I want to say it's a little bit late. So it's like, yeah, it's 7 o'clock. I'm not sure which outlets, depending on what provider that you have, where you can watch the debate, but we'll do a full recap tomorrow. Well, not full recap. We'll do an amazing recap tomorrow on that. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. I'm retired, says this viewer. Just got my IRA statement. have made more money retired than when I was adding money. How could you not say Trump is doing something right? Exactly. That's the dirty little secret that no one on the left wants to bring up. Comment from a different viewer. Breaking news. Due to the recent discovery of excessive methane gas being released, New York farmers can't have more than 500 cows. Yes, exactly. We had those. It was 300, wasn't it? Was it 500? I can't remember. Numbers don't always stick great in my head. But where you had those Manhattan lawmakers pushing, Democrats, of course, in Albany, pushing for a limit on how many cows you could have as a farmer, all in the name of global warming. So I like your point there. With all that, again, what are we doing here? We're disrupting our life. Governor Hochul's making it so unaffordable to live here with the electric houses, you're full electric in the vehicles and the school buses, et cetera, et cetera. So unaffordable to live here. And yet we learn from CNN that there are these fissures in the ocean that are just pumping out, wow, how did it say? Global heating gases. Okay. So yes, I say we blame it on the New York farmers and make sure that we make their life more difficult. I like your point. Trump tells CNN yesterday the Israeli forces could resume fighting in Gaza, quote, as soon as I say the word, if Hamas won't uphold the ceasefire deal. He said in a brief telephone call, what's going on with Hamas? They'll be straightened out quickly. And he said that Israeli forces could return to the streets, quote, as soon as I say the word, signaling that they're not going, the Trump administration and Israel's not going to take this constant waffling on the peace deal. Now, veteran Democrat strategist James the Raging Cajun Carville, a major critic, of course, of Donald Trump, argued that he did deserve credit for negotiating a peace deal to stop the war in Gaza. He said, stopping this, bringing these hostages back, I don't know. You can say, well, it may not last that long. But you know what? He did it. And I think he deserves some credit for it. They just do it and should do it. He deserves some credit for it. They just do it and should do it. Look at all the credit that Jimmy Carter got for Camp David, that George H.W. Bush got for the Berlin Wall to fall. Reagan should get the credit. They have a legitimate, kind of moment in the sun, and that's fine. And hopefully this thing will hold. We'll see. But I don't have any problem with saying that they did something which, as of now, other people failed to do. At least you got to give them credit. Because others giving the credit to Biden, wrongfully, of course, Blinken and Biden himself giving the credit to the Biden administration. One other thing, we don't have a lot on the peace deal, but Miranda Devine at the New York Post said it's early days, but there are signs that Trump derangement syndrome is on the way out. And the Middle East peace deal Donald Trump pulled off with sheer force of personality is part of the reason. In a whirlwind 36 hours, the president addressed the the Israel Parliament. I was going to say Jerusalem, but yes, it is in Jerusalem, to hail a new dawn in the Middle East, and then flew to Sharm el-Sheikh to sign the Gaza peace deal, flanked by the leaders of Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar, who had helped force Hamas's hand. European leaders took a back seat and meekly kowtowed to Trump. On the sidelines in Egypt, Trump gave Weasley Emmanuel Macron a bone-crusher handshake that lasted an excruciating 26 seconds as the French president tried not to wince. Trump also delivered one of the most humiliating political moments ever captured on video to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Trump saying, "Where is the United Kingdom? Where's my friend? Come here." As the delighted prime minister bounced forward to join him at the podium. But Trump just shook his hand and said, "It's very nice that you're here," before turning his back and to continue his speech as Starmer slunk back to his seat in shame. It may have been an inadvertent snub, or it may have been one of the calibrated social maneuvers that Trump plays like a Stradivarius while acting oblivious. The ambiguity is part of the genius. After all, the UK and France delayed the peace deal with their symbolic grandstanding about a Palestinian state before the UN General Assembly last month. Both leaders deserve a gentle poke as they try to share the peacemakers' glory. At some point, Trump also applied his EQ to eyeballing the Hamas leaders face to face, telling them menacingly that they were dealing with a different kind of president from the last one, and they understood. Trump was in his element, exuding the alpha male energy that's been all but outlawed in the West. He must look to the Europeans like Shakespeare depicted Julius Caesar, quote, bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Trump's dominant energy is a welcome shield to ward off these circling sharks salivating over the recent enfeeblement of the United States by wandering off and telling tall tales. How they must have laughed when he kept repeating the brag, America is back, stronger than ever. Biden billed himself as a foreign policy expert, yet he made a mess of everything. By the time he left, two major wars had exploded. China was emboldened, and he had left the Taliban $7 billion in military equipment after the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. In 8 months, Trump has upended the old world order in trade, in war, and peace, and in telling the Europeans to start paying for their own defense. This unique personality could only have come from New York, the greatest city in the greatest country on earth, the Rome of our time. Trump embodies the braggadocio, the impatience, the knowledge that you are at the center of everything in this messy, bustling, infuriating town, clashing and clanging with all the other hustlers elbowing their way through. He has the innate cool you find in real New Yorkers, a nonchalant that masks enthusiasm. His restrained signature dance says it all. He is a human embodiment of the American flag. This coming from Miranda Devine, if you're just joining us. The navy blue suit, the red tie, the white shirt, and the golden hair. He doesn't change, and he doesn't care what you think about that. The package is puzzling and off-putting to non-New Yorkers, which explains a little about Trump derangement syndrome. But as Trump chalks up win against the odds, and as more people become aware of the Hillary Obama origins of Russiagate and all the other attempts to sabotage his first term, bankrupt and jail him, character assassinate him, and then really kill him, irrational Trump hatred seems to be dissipating. Liberal media outlets around the world have been doling out grudging praise to the president for his Middle East peace efforts. Chris Cuomo and C-SPAN, to their own surprise, have been fielding calls from Democrats applauding Trump, not just for the Gaza deal, but for his tough stance on immigration and the fact, like this other viewer had just said, 401ks haven't collapsed like they feared. Gavin Newsom's social media barbs at Trump are falling flat to the point he is having to delete them. People like Rosie O'Donnell will always hate him. Barack Obama is miserable. On a lefty podcast this week, he sat slumped in a chair, arms and legs folded, in full defensive posture, musing about anger, sadness, and fear. He bemoaned the fact that Trump's reelection and dominance is a rejection of a lot of what Michelle and I had tried to project, the values, our thinking about America. You betcha. The country is slowly healing from Obama and Biden. One sign was Brandy Cruz, a social media citizen journalist invited to the recent Antifa roundtable at the White House, who described herself as a recovered TDS addict. Covering left-wing riots in Seattle the past 5 years had flipped her. Now she says she's happier, healthier, more successful, and even a little, did she say this? And a little more attractive. Let's hope shrugging off Trump derangement syndrome proves the same for the country. I thought that was kind of interesting from Miranda Devine. All right, Zohran Mamdani refusing to ask Hamas to disarm and standing by Netanyahu's arrest. This is going to be interesting because tonight is the debate, and I was surprised. I'll admit it, I was wrong. And by the way, did I miss your comment, Mark? I think I missed your comment. You had you said that you missed the government shutdown. You had predicted it'd be over in 2 weeks, and you were wrong. If I didn't read that, I apologize. I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I thought it would be done and over with before this. I don't remember what my exact prediction was, but yes, I'm with you on that. And the only reason I say that is it just hit me that I did not mention that. So I apologize. But I also I also questioned whether Zohran Mamdani would actually go on Fox. He did. I'm surprised. He has been very shy when it comes to certain media. He's been running a kind of a Biden-esque basement campaign. So it was pretty surprising to see that he would go to Fox News, but he did. Maybe this was in his preparation for tonight's debate when he takes on Cuomo and Sliwa. So Zohran Mamdani repeatedly refused to say that Hamas should lay down its weapons. That is extremely telling. And he stood by his promise to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to New York City. He was on with Martha McCallum, persistently pressed by McCallum if Hamas should put down its weapons, a key pillar of the deal with the terror group, a deal that they have refused to accept as of now, and give up leadership in Gaza. Mamdani tried to wiggle out of that line of questioning. Imagine wiggling out of that line. Imagine not being confident and saying, yes, Hamas should give up its arms. If they're talking about ceasefires all the time, they're talking about peace for Palestine. Yes, Hamas should give up their arms. Yes, they should give up in Gaza. But he cannot say that because that's how radical the far left has become. And he's afraid he'll lose support from the far left. He'll lose support from the Democrat Socialists of America. So he tried to wiggle his way out of it, brought up affordability, these type of things. I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety, and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. That applies to Hamas. That applies to the Israeli military. Applies to anyone you could ask me about. Wow. That evasive maneuver did not stand firm, that he did not stand firm on his vows if elected. So, yeah, he was wishy-washy on Hamas laying down arms, but very confident that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. When McCollum pointed out that the U.S. hasn't signed the treaty for the International Criminal Court, which is who called for the arrest of Netanyahu, Mamdani appeared to hint his stance was more one of principle, noting the court also issued a similar warrant for Putin. I believe that we should uphold arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court, and that we should do so only in abiding with all the laws in front of us. I can tell you that I'm going to exhaust every legal option in front of me, not to make new laws to do so. Mamdani argued that Hamas should absolutely return the bodies of dead Israeli-American hostages. I have no issue with critiquing Hamas or the Israeli government because my critiques all come from a place of universal human rights. Do you always notice how he always has to say, I have no problem arguing about Hamas and Israel? He always equates the two. Think of that. He equates the two together. And this man is most likely, if you believe the polls, he will most likely be the mayor of New York City. McCollum bluntly asked Mamdani if he'll give President Trump credit for the ceasefire deal. He said, quote, I think it's too early to do so, but it proves to be something that is lasting, something that is durable. I think that's where you go. Wow. So that is the front runner for mayor of New York City. All right, we got a couple other things on that. Running just a little bit late. We'll read your comments when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Ed, you still coming over? Chili's almost ready.
Great, on my way. Be there in a few.
Hey, buddy. I'm starting to get a little worried about you.
No seatbelt.
Give me a call when you get a chance. Love you.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
Dante Brown.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So many comments coming in. Thank you for that. I always appreciate it. Let's get right to them. Rick writes in, new car average price tops $50,000 for the first time. Tariffs on imported vehicles, parts, steel, aluminum? Nah, couldn't be. How could these things drive up a new car price? Hamas has already had enough peace as they seek to reassert control in Gaza. Believe me, I have no love for Hamas whatsoever. I think they are the sickest of the sick, and they need to be 100% snuffed out. But there has to be a way to do this without slaughtering hundreds of thousands of innocent people and creating a humanitarian crisis. All those countries that were in Egypt for Trump Day need to form an international coalition under the same set of marching orders to go into Gaza and rout these animals out. Tough job because a lot of them walk around with the Palestinians. So who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? I hope this clears up the cloud on my stance on Gaza and all the atrocities that occur there. Trump says Venezuela emptied out their jails and insane asylums and sent all those people, along with drug dealers, petty criminals, and vagrants, to the United States. So who did they leave in Venezuela to send drugs to the U.S.? That's a step. And I'll be remiss if I didn't recognize Speaker Johnson for not swearing in Congresswoman-elect Grijalva of Arizona and the last vote needed to deliver the Epstein files. Enjoy you all. All right. Thanks for clearing that up. With the Epstein files. Yeah, that's the big one. That's the winning ticket, I tell you. I think it's interesting. Full disclosure, I had a friend that was studying Epstein way before the documentaries and way before the videos and everything. And I had read the police report and stuff like that. So it's quite an old story. I mean, I was already like something I had done a lot of research on. Then he died in prison. So the reason I give you the background on that is when I was kind of entrenched in it, trying to study it myself, I wish, during the Biden administration, during the Trump's first administration, Obama's administration, I wish there were people calling for the Epstein files to be released. It's interesting that now, as people see it as a cudgel they can use against Trump, now it's the biggest issue Democrats have ever had. Seems like 4 years ago, or the last 4 years, would have been a perfect time for that, right? And again, I think it proves the point, the fact that Biden or Harris didn't release it goes to, again, to at least in my mind, from a party that pushed Russia, pushed all these non-scandals or fake made-up scandals with Trump, they would have released it if it was at all detrimental to Trump. So again, I understand why Democrats see it as a winning issue, because there's even Democrats that don't want to release but can say it, and it looks like it's bad on Trump. And every time something's released, they say this is already old news. So they want some mythical, or not maybe mythical, maybe real information, but that information may not exist. We may not know. There may not be that smoking gun article that so many people are claiming they're looking for, and I think that's the ultimate goal from the Democrat Party. They want to call for the smoking gun that they may or may not know it does not exist, because then it's a winning. Then they can keep saying, well, Trump's not releasing it. Trump's not releasing. Trump's not. Why didn't Biden release it then? What is I don't know. I don't have the answer for these questions. This isn't even a political question. Why wasn't it released? Why weren't the calls to this be released? It would have been a lot more beneficial to the Democrat Party if they're as bad as they claim, the Democrats now claim the Epstein files are. Why not release them under the Biden administration so they could have got Trump? Why do you do it now when Trump's already in power? I just find there's too many moving pieces but the Democrats just find it as a winning. They think it is a winning conversation. I don't know if it is. Time will tell on that. All right, continuing. A little bit too much of a tangent on that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. The tell for Zohran Mamdani is everything he referred to is international law and globalism. Great point. That is everything that will eventually lead to a new world order. Thankfully, Trump removed us from WHO, which had dictated everyone should need digital IDs. Also, what is the main controlling unit? Look at China and what is happening in Europe now with the digital IDs. Socialism and communism, in my opinion, is stronger here now than ever. People really need to be aware. It is. I mean, if you've got an avowed socialist, the front runner of the mayoral race, and you've got other socialists, avowed socialists, Democrats, Socialists of America, that have become the face of the Democrat Party. Look at AOC, look at Bernie Sanders. We're going to talk about their town hall here in just a moment that was on CNN. Comment from a different viewer. So Hamas does not have to lay down weapons, but Americans shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Are these people nuts? Thank you very much. And finally, Ken writes in, I assume you watched the Mamadani interview on Fox. Yep. I had a few takeaways. I always appreciate your takeaways. Kind of like this. One, his attitude and mannerism would make me want to count my fingers and how many I had left after we shook hands. Yes, he is a very, what's the word you want to use? I don't know. Continuing. He knows his policies will be wildly unpopular. That's why he didn't answer a single question. When Martha asked how many New York City government employees he would be in charge of, he said 300,000. That seems like a huge number, even for a city of 8 million. No wonder they need to charge residents a separate tax. That's a good point. He didn't answer a single question. We know that this is what's interesting when it has the implications that it has for the gubernatorial race. Because if he does win, and it looks like he's going to, he can do a lot of damages with his policies from January when he's sworn in till November when the gubernatorial race is ongoing. And let's face it, if Elise Stefanik declares that she is going to run, Elise Stefanik can use the endorsement by Governor Hochul over and over again. And don't think for a moment she won't. But now Zohran Mamdani, who just played Governor Hochul like a fiddle, gets the endorsement from Hochul. And then when he's asked, does he endorse Hochul for governor, he says, we'll have to wait and see. And you think, wow, Hochul, I hope you're at least a little embarrassed over that, a little sheepish. Well, now Zohran Mamdani is changing his tune because Governor Hochul campaigned with him again, 2 times being used, praising her on affordability after saying in the past that she failed New Yorkers. What a flip-flop. Mamdani saying, I think Governor Hochul has been successful in her pursuit of an affordability agenda. Oh, I'm running late. Naming steps that she had taken on child care thus far. But just 2 years ago, during negotiations over the state budget, the Queens State Assemblyman ripped Hochul for not agreeing to raise taxes on millionaires. Anyway, we got to go because I realized I'm running late, and I had told our guest, James Cool, that we would talk at 7:20. So 5 minutes late. Bear with me. Coming up next, running for re-election for Steuben County Legislature in District 12, which is a district that encompasses Irwin. James Cool will be our guest after this. This is Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
10 p.m. somewhere. Do you know what your kids are doing online? Brought to you by Ferrario Jeep.
That unreal itch. When moderate to severe eczema is uncontrolled despite treatment, get itch relief fast and skin clearance that lasts with Nemluvio blocks the signaling from IL-31, a switch that triggers key symptoms of eczema. Do not take if allergic to Nemluvio. Serious reactions may occur, some severe. Tell your doctor about any medicines you take if you experience hives or plan to receive a live vaccine. The most common side effects are headache, joint pain, hives, and muscle aches. Ask about Nemluvio today.
It's the best 2 hours of NFL coverage, starting with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then at noon, take it to the next level on Fox NFL Sunday.
This kid has it all.
Touchdown! America's #1 pregame show. The best NFL pregame shows are
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, James Cool, thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you for having me, Frank. Good morning.
I have to do the disclaimer. Disclaimer, I am an Irwin resident. I'm on the Irwin Town board with you, proudly on the board. So what I've done with you and your opponent is come up with essentially the same questions to keep it as fair as possible, because you are running for re-election to legislature in the District 12, which is Irwin. Okay. Whew. Got that out of the way. All right. I know you've been on the program back during the primaries, but tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me on again, Frank. I'm a proud member of the Irwin community, and my wife and I moved here about 10 years ago now, and we're raising our three boys are here, and I have been lucky enough to serve on the town board for the past 4 years, as well as in the county legislature for the past 4 years, and it's been great. That's the thing. Yeah, I can only just say how honored and privileged I am to have had this chance to serve. And so originally, born and raised in Steuben County, and like I said, I've been here. I work for a business consulting company and technology company out of Horseheads. But yeah, this is I'm also a Little League coach and the Cub Master for Cub Scout Pack 79.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because last time you were on, you were saying the Little League team was doing pretty good this year. So how's it looking?
We ended up winning the division, so it was exciting. And then we had a great season in All Stars as well. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's a wonderful organization. I hope a lot of people have had a chance to experience that.
Now you're running for re-election, but originally, why did you decide to run in the first place? Going back 4 years.
Going back 4 years. So I was raised to understand what a community means and how important it is. And that's really why when we moved here, I figured out how to just raise my hand. Yeah. So when we got here, I joined the planning board. The town of Irwin will find you a home if you're willing to put yourself out there. And so that was a great place for me to learn what's going on in the town, make some
that's a
connections.
Pulse. That's a pulse
exactly.
Of the town.
I mean, that's really where it doesn't matter if you're a business, if you're a local resident, you want to do something on your land, you want to buy new land, you want to subdivide, stuff like that. So it does provide a really good entry into what's going on in the town. And then from there, the town board and the legislature seat opened up, and it was really kind of saying, how else can I help? And I thought I was in a position to really be effective from day one, knowing what was happening in Irwin, being able to represent them at the county. And so that's why I stepped forward.
When you look at your past 4 years, I know there's always a learning curve, and that type of thing. Do you look back and say, okay, now I have new goals, we reached some of our goals. What has that 4 years look like?
Well, things are going to evolve. My goals, it's really about trying to, why I'm running now is to build on some of the successes and the momentum that we've been able to accomplish over the past 4 years. And challenges remain, but also there are ways that we've started to address some of those and really try to get some wins for Irwin and for Painted Post and Steuben County as well. So it's about trying to understand what are the challenges that our residents and neighborhoods are facing. What can we do in the limited fashion that we are allowed to at the county or at the town to be able to help.
What do you see the next 4 years? What do you see as the biggest issues you'll be facing?
I think right off the bat, and I said it during the primaries, that, as I'm going around, it is affordability. We are just squeezed here in New York State, and it is trying to. The challenge remains of how do you make a dollar go as far as possible, and it's getting harder. And we just had a budget workshop yesterday at the county, and it is trying to make those dollars go as far as they can without having to raise taxes. So it's about cutting unnecessary spending. It's about reducing the waste. It's about trying to be as innovative around how to deliver the services that we need for the most efficient way possible.
I don't envy you at the budget workshops and today's climate, because I mean it's tough because the state has given us so many mandates.
It's true. It's true.
And people don't accept that as a reason.
And those costs go up, right? I mean, and so when we're talking about affordability, it's really trying to say, how do you keep people here without saying that there are better places to go? So in my mind, the goal is always try to make Irwin and Painted Post just the great place to live, raise a family, and try to thrive. And in order to do that, we have to be as cost conscious as possible.
Sure.
So trying to keep taxes low and cutting that unnecessary spending is really going to be one of the challenges. I'd say one of the next ones, and if you don't mind,
no, please do. No.
is what I'm hearing is also transportation.
Yes,
we are challenged in Steuben County, in this area, around transportation. It affects businesses, it affects residents, it affects how you can get to grocery shop, how you can get to work, and that is going to be one of our priorities going forward. Is how do you solve that problem, and how do you just work towards it? And I think we're starting to take the right steps to focus on it.
And Steuben's so large and so
huge.
rural.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. But if I was living here in Irwin or Corning, how do I get to Hornell?
Yeah.
Right, if I didn't have a car. So it's one of those things of how do we start to try to connect and the whole county together so that when you are a business or if you are a resident, how do you start to take advantage of some of the natural resources and the assets that we have here, which are amazing, to be able to say, maybe if I didn't have a car, I can still be part of this community.
Right. And now in the news at night, we talking about Irwin, proactive in a way with the issue of flooding, because we just recently cleaned up, and I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely.
Because I think we have taken, as a county, a little bit, and I don't want to put blame, I shouldn't put that way, but the flooding is constantly a news story every year in the county. Now, I know Irwin, we've been very lucky, we've been proactive, but this is something you have to be concerned at the legislative level.
No doubt.
Yeah.
We have a levee system in the county.
Yeah,
I mean, you see it when you drive on our highways, and that's where we actually have levees. There are so many streams and creeks and rivers throughout that are not protected that way.
Right.
So we do need to focus and build up that flood resiliency, and the county has started to take steps. It is a priority to invest in trying to build that those protections in place, because it just isn't right for someone to live in a place where if there is a couple bad storms, you may be waking up in water, and that's not any way to live. And so the county certainly is starting to look at, and has been, but with partnerships and making investments into soil and water, and trying to get DEC, and working with FEMA, and working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Right. So federal, state partners, as well as what we can do here at the county to really try to focus on how do we help. And then obviously in Irwin, it hasn't been as large, but we are also impacted by weather, and we're seeing windstorms, we're seeing tons of debris.
Yeah.
We've got a very wooded, wooded town, and so it's impacting us as well. Maybe not with the water, but with the extremes aspects. And so we do need to take, and the county has also started proactively cutting dead trees throughout county roads. Yeah. I think they've taken thousands and thousands of trees. So it's a hats off to the county public works doing that and getting ahead of it.
And next question in the news, obviously we brought this up in the past, but it is the biggest news story in Steuben County. With the sheriff, your thoughts on this moving forward? Obviously the appeal, but there's no new information. So just your thoughts.
Yeah, as far as I follow the news as much as you do, and my position on that goes back to that affordability. It is how do we reduce liability exposure wherever it may be at the county, and so it's really around trying to reduce that so that it doesn't roll back onto the taxpayer. But but that doesn't mean I haven't supported the sheriff in terms of his law enforcement responsibilities. I've voted to increase pay for the sheriff deputies by over 30%, reduce the numbers of years of service for them to be able to retire, voted to increase the sheriff's salary as well. And in Irwin especially, we've added two more, and I voted to support two more deputies on the road patrol, because in Irwin, obviously, we don't have a local police force. So
Right.
we rely on the sheriff's department and the state troopers to be able to respond to any criminal activity in our area. So it's very much, I think, it's going to go forward. It is what it is now, but at this point, I want to say that it is. It's an issue that, unfortunately, I don't think I can take any more action on at this point.
So last time we talked, it was the summer. Now we had primaries. How's the campaign been going? Because now you're in general election mode.
I mean, time has flown by.
I know.
Here we are in October. We're 3 weeks from Election Day. And so the campaign, I'm hearing a lot of support.
Good.
And I appreciate all the support I've been getting. It's really about trying to continue to go out, meet with residents so that we can understand what is on your plate, what is your priority, so that I can take that back to the county, so I can take that to the town. Because going back to why I ran, I felt that I could be effective because I understood what was important to the town and to our residents. So that's really around trying to understand, how do I continue to be effective, working for the populations that we have are in need, supporting our veterans, supporting our law enforcement, also trying to support our youth. There's a number of places, but it's really around trying to understand and be that voice that we need at the county level.
What have you found as you're knocking on doors, you're talking to the constituents? What has been the biggest concerns from voters, or is it kind of a hodgepodge?
I would say, when I knock on a door, it's really around, I do hear, as it comes back to taxes and affordability, and costs are going up. There's so much that we can do at the county level. I'm working right now on trying to introduce a new property tax exemption for first-time homeowners. We've been able to increase the eligibility for property tax exemptions for veterans, for those with disabilities, for seniors, for first responders. Right? There are ways that we can try to help reduce the burden, and that's important to me.
So what's your campaign look like from here on out? Like you said, 3 weeks, which is impossible. You pretty much keep doing the same thing at this point.
It really is. Just try to stay out, knocking on doors. I'm going to try to have a couple of events just to open
last minute.
Exactly. Last minute, just to say. But I know people are busy, right? I mean, in Scouts and with youth sports,
and this time
it's really
of year,
trying to schedule things, and you just hear there are no available days.
Right.
So it's just trying to take the time that I have and meet as many people as possible, and just let them know that I'm here to listen. I'm here. It's very important to me to actually be a representative of those in this town.
Here's a question this sprung up with your opponent, and I don't know why, but I should really ask everybody this, because I think it's an issue overall with the general election. How do you get the people out to vote? I mean, that's got to be one of your biggest challenges, right?
I think you just have to remind them of the privilege that they get, and it's hard to say we don't have a voice when you do have at least one day a year that you can go and say, this is somebody that I think will do a good job for me. And that's really around reminding people, is just saying, here is when it is, because sometimes it gets lost, and we're trying to. And the fact that it's a Tuesday, November 4th.
And early voting starts soon.
Early voting starts on October 25th, right? So
that's
and so you'll have about 2 weeks to.
And you can go right over to the library.
Yep, the library there.
Nice. Yep. No longer just go to the.
And so it's really trying to say, if something is important to you, talk to a candidate, talk to me, and that way we can see if we can work together on trying to solve any issue.
How would you, or what would you tell people that want to find out more about you, maybe do want to help, do want to get a yard sign, something like that? What should they do?
Well, they can go to my website. That's one place,
screen,
jamescoolforirwin.com. I also have a Facebook page, James Cool for Irwin, if you search through there. Also, my cell phone and my email are available both on those and also through the county website. So if you do have something you would like to speak about, no matter what, please reach out. It's very important to me that I'm able to understand what's important to you, so that I can go and speak on your behalf. That's how I found to be the most effective voice, is to understand what is happening here at the town level.
All right, before people go to early voting or they wait till November 4th to vote, what do you say to those voters?
I say thank you for the privilege to serve you for the last 4 years, and I would like to do 4 more because I think there's still more work to build on.
Yeah.
You know, we've been able to do some good stuff here at getting some youth sports money and some infrastructure improvements over at the fields in Kinsella Park. We've been trying to engage veterans about the benefits that are available to them. Just recently held a small business roundtable here in Irwin to talk to business owners about what's important to them, what are the challenges they're facing. So if you need an effective voice in Bath on behalf of the town of Irwin, that's me.
Great. Well, James, thanks so much for being on the program. Let's do this again before Election Day. How's that?
That would be great. Thanks,
All
Frank.
right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
What matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quick though, driving America.
William had a great brother, but I was surprised to learn how many people knew he was my brother.
William Mattar's on this?
Oh, brother.
Because when Big Insurance finds out that he's on a car crash case.
So who's on this?
They hired William Mattar.
Oh, brother.
Word travels fast.
You know, they got Mattar on this. Mattar? Oh, brother.
Hurt in a car? Call my brother, William Mattar. 444-4444.
A few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5.
Our beautiful view of historic Market Street. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Yes, we're running just a little bit late. Thank you to James Cool for being on the program this morning. Let's go to viewer comments before we take another break. Rick writes in, Frank, I totally agree with you on the Epstein files. Uh-oh. Just teasing. Should have happened a long time ago. Like most, I'm not sure why. Political pressure? Don't know. My interest in this has to do with Trump's friendship with Epstein, along with others, and how those files speak to those friendships. Thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. I was totally consumed with the Epstein files until I heard that methane was leaking through cracks, which will accelerate global warming. Now, let me try that again. Now, all I want to do is buy a kayak before they're all gone. That's a good idea. Build the ark. Comment from a different viewer. These radicals are nothing but double talk. And the thoughts of Mamadani sickens me even more than Cuomo ever did. And that is saying something. I think this will impact upstate more than anyone realizes. Look at what Jokel, they call him, Hochul, we'll assume that was a typo, Jokel. What Hochul has done, and just like I thought, it couldn't get any worse than Cuomo. We may think that she was wonderful when we see the likes of Mamadani. Well, yeah, so Mamadani will be condensed to New York City, but that does affect us in upstate more than I think we realize. So I would agree with you, especially, I mean, those costs are coming from somewhere, his outlandish plans. Well, we learned that tonight, we know that tonight is the debate between Mamadani, Cuomo, and Sliwa. Cuomo, I've got to say, is good at, when it comes to debate, he's not wonderful at debates, but what he's good at is peppering his opponents with questions, and somehow, and this may be different tonight, but keeping the spotlight off of him. When he was governor, he would demand that the only way he was doing a debate is if every single candidate was in. And then they would ask these, you can't even say third-party candidates. They're so fringe, and they would get all this time and eat up all the time that Cuomo wouldn't have to answer questions. So we'll see how that plays out tonight. I did not realize that there is going to be a second and final debate on October 22nd as well. So if you watch tonight, they're saying that Mamdani needs a mistake-free debate. I think he made he made mistakes in his Fox News interview, but not for his leftist base. He was fine. But for more moderate individuals in New York, he may have tipped his hat a little bit too much with not calling for Hamas to lay down their arms and saying that he'd arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. But according to the quote-unquote experts, Zohran Mamdani has a lead to protect. Cuomo can't be too gruff, and Sliwa can simply be his iconoclastic self. Mamdani is walking a tightrope atop a double-digit polling advantage, and Cuomo is desperate to cut into it. A potentially catastrophic gaffe by Mamdani stands to aid Cuomo, who has leaned on his decades of experience in the halls of power in contrast to the backbench state assembly member. It is going to be interesting tonight, and we will be covering it on tomorrow's broadcast if you don't have an opportunity to see it. Now, Brian York at the Washington Examiner writes, Zohran, Big Tish, and the New Resistance. This week saw the debut of a new alliance in the ongoing resistance to Donald Trump. New York Attorney General Letitia James, already a hero on the left for the 2022 lawsuit she filed in an attempt to cripple Trump. If you really consider her a hero over that, if you're on the left, you've made a tactical mistake. Because it was the lawsuit like Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and others that, in Trump's own words, I'm one indictment away from the White House, and he won the White House. I think that played a major role at the end of the day. A lot of people don't like being told who they can and cannot vote for, and that's what they were attempting to do with these lawsuits, using lawfare to bankrupt the former president, now president. But they said that she has joined with Zohran Mamdani in a rally. And in a larger sense, it was about the face of the resistance in the second Trump administration. A lot of faces of the resistance, isn't there? All right, we got to take a short break. Get your last minute comments in because I'm going to double back the commercials, and then we are going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So stay with us. Please get all your last comments in.
This is a Sue the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Lease a brand new 2026 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive featuring heated seats and heated steering wheel for only $359 a month for 36 months. Make Carbine simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Hornell.
We've had many wonderful memories as a family. Dropping Shelly off at school, I prayed he wouldn't get stuffed in a gym bag. Missy might have been the one in Little League.
I'm asking the Lord to watch over my little girl.
Well, while you're at it, ask him for a win. I got money on this.
But Georgie is the one who threw us the real curveball.
I got a girl pregnant.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I know I've got to take another short break already, but we got so many comments, I want to read them all. Then we will wrap up. Well, you know what? No, I'm going to wrap up with the comments in the last segment. Let me go through this. The takeaway from Sanders and AOC's CNN town hall yesterday. What we learned from CNN, their takeaways of their own town hall, is that they learned what progressives want. I don't accept IOUs. I don't accept pinky promises. That's not the business I'm in, AOC said. Sanders agreed, saying that a Trump pledge to support such an extension, meaning the Obamacare extension, wouldn't be enough. We also learn, I don't want to go through the takeaways. AOC leaves the door open for a Schumer primary challenge last night. When asked, should Schumer be worried, she said, no, seeming visibly agitated by the question. I don't think this is about anything. Yeah, she's not necessarily ready sometimes when the tough questions are asked to her. Let me just jump in on this one, Sanders interjected, trying to save her. We have a country that is falling apart. AOC, while laughing hysterically, then jumped back in. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. We have a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, are you going to run? What are you going to run for? Nobody cares. AOC chimed in, nobody cares. Well, yeah, nobody does care, I guess. If that's your campaign platform about running, that nobody cares, I say run with it, AOC. Anyway, so she didn't completely shut it out. Something to keep in mind. Bernie Sanders clashed with a town hall attendee over Schumer. Well, I think it reflects more on Mike Johnson's leadership and President Trump's leadership, Sanders said. This is a leadership that said it's okay to give how do you feel? You tell me. You think it's a good idea to give a $1 trillion tax break to the richest people in the country and then make massive cuts to health care? The audience member said, I think Chuck Schumer has voted for continuing resolutions 13 times in the last 4 years, and he has the opportunity to vote for one again, but he's refusing to come to the table. Sanders said, I think, look, as I've said, there are 53 Republicans in the Senate, correct? They need 60. What does that mean? It means you have to talk to one another. Mike Johnson is not talking. John Thune is not talking. Trump is not talking. That is the problem. All right, last break. Then we wrap up. Stay with us.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
World Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world. We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to. Yeah. Right, Rod? Exactly. We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
Big.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We got to move quickly here. I want to get to everybody's comments. Are you old enough, this viewer asks me, to remember the Cuomo debate with the rent is too damn high party, along with the prostitute and the legalized marijuana candidate? I think there was like 8 of them on stage. Yes, that's what I was referring to. I remember watching it that night, and it was very telling of Cuomo's tactic. He would only debate if they had all those other kind of wacky candidates on, because it took the pressure off of him. He got what would normally be, let's say, 10 questions during a debate. He would only get 2 because of time restraints. So yes, that's exactly what I was referring to. I forgot about the various candidates, though. That was better than comedy on TV. Comment from a different viewer. Follow the money. The Epstein files have to do with the richest of the rich. That's why neither Democrats nor Republicans want to let the filthy cats out of the bag. They both need the filthy money. Thank you. Ken, I will get that information for you. I don't know where we can watch the debate tonight, but I'm hoping we can all do so. Comment from a different viewer. The liberals always overplay their hands. That's their problem. Not that they have much to begin with. Thank you. And Jack says, to heck with getting rid of the cows. The bigger contribution of methane is from lawmakers. How about getting rid of them instead? Putting a limit on how many lawmakers we have. I like it, Jack. And finally, this viewer writes in, and this is a message for Ken. Frank, will you please thank Ken in advance for me for watching the debate tonight? I just can't handle it without a need to eventually check into the Betty Ford Clinic. Thank you. Have a great day. A comment from a different viewer. Exactly what I was talking about. You reminded me of that debate with your comment. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a heck of a debate back then with Cuomo and all the rogue candidates. But it was tactically, it was a brilliant move from Cuomo, saying, I'll only debate if every other wackadoo. And who stole the show? Is the rent is too damn high guy. Stole the show from day one. One last thing, because we were talking about the government shutdown, and I wanted to mention what John Fetterman had to say about extending the Obamacare and all that. He said, I follow country, then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country, meaning the shutdown. In a period of chaos, I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for healthcare, absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democrat Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken from anybody by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now, let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down. Great point by John Fetterman. It was designed by the Democrats. It's not the Republicans doing it. We are out of time. Thank you to James Cool for being our guest. Join us tomorrow and every weekday morning at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.